The Garden of Letters. In a quiet countryside of northern England, nestled between rolling hills and ancient oak trees, there was a small cottage with a forgotten garden. Ivy crept along its stone walls, and wildflowers bloomed in disorderly beauty. It was the kind of place time forgot, except for the letters that still arrived every month, carefully placed at the doorstep. Isabel Hart, a young woman in her late 20s, moved into the cottage after inheriting it from her grandmother. A writer of historical fiction, she hoped the peaceful village of Elderberry would inspire her words and give her the solitude she longed for after a difficult breakup in London. One morning, while sipping tea beside the window, she noticed a letter on the doorstep. The envelope was old-fashioned, sealed with red wax, addressed not to her, but to "My dearest Eleanor." Curious, Isabel opened it. The words inside were handwritten in elegant cursive, filled with deep affection, regret, and longing. It read, "My dearest Eleanor. Another season passes without you beside me. The garden blooms, but it feels empty. I still remember your laughter among the roses, the way you whispered poetry as we danced in the moonlight." The letter was dated June 17, 1952. Isabel was captivated. Who was Eleanor? And who had written this letter? Over the following weeks, more letters arrived, each filled with passion, secrets, and stories of two lovers torn apart by war. As the mystery unraveled, Isabel began researching the history of the cottage and discovered that Eleanor had once lived there during the 1940s. Her lover, Thomas Albridge, had been a soldier in World War II. They had planned to marry after the war, but Thomas never returned. Or so Eleanor believed. Isabel continued reading the letters and felt herself falling, not for Thomas, but for the idea of a love that endured decades. One evening, after the rain, an elderly man knocked on her door. "Excuse me," he said, holding a cane and wearing a worn coat. "I used to live here, many years ago. I was told Eleanor Hart passed away?" "Yes," Isabel replied, heart racing. "She was my grandmother." The man smiled softly, eyes glistening. "Then you must be Isabel." "I'm Thomas." It was impossible. Thomas Albridge. He had survived the war but was wounded and lost his memory for years. When he finally remembered, it was too late. Eleanor had already thought him gone. "I've been writing to her every month," he said, voice trembling. "In case she ever came back." Isabel guided him to the overgrown garden. Thomas looked around, tears falling as he saw the wild roses she had once planted. They sat together, and she read him the last letter Eleanor had written, one she found in a dusty box in the attic. "My dearest Thomas. If you're alive, know this, I never stopped loving you. I planted roses for every year you were gone. If you ever find this place again, they will still be blooming for you." The garden was full of them. From that day on, Isabel and Thomas tended the garden together. He told her stories of Eleanor, and she, inspired by their enduring love, wrote a novel titled The Garden of Letters. It became a bestseller. But the real treasure wasn't in the pages. It was in the garden where love bloomed, across generations, across time. Whispers through the window. In the heart of Venice, where gondolas glided silently through narrow canals and every sunset painted the sky with strokes of gold and rose, lived a young painter named Luca. He lived alone in a small apartment above a bakery, with a window that overlooked the quiet street below. Every morning, the smell of fresh bread drifted into his room, and every evening, he painted the city bathed in twilight. One rainy afternoon, while sketching the reflection of raindrops on the water, Luca saw her for the first time. She was standing under a red umbrella, completely still, staring up at the building across from his. She wore a long beige coat, and her hair, dark, thick, and damp from the mist, framed her gentle face. Luca couldn't look away. She was like a brushstroke of life in the middle of a gray canvas. The next day, she came again, same time, same spot. This time, she noticed Luca watching her from his window. She didn't look away. Instead, she smiled. Her name was Amelia. She had just moved into the city and was staying at her aunt's place, the same building Luca's window faced. Over the following days, their smiles turned into waves into notes left on the window, and eventually into long conversations shouted across the narrow street, until they agreed to meet. Their first meeting wasn't grand. They met at the little bakery below Luca's apartment. Over coffee and warm croissants, they talked about everything: art, books, the smell of rain, their childhood dreams. Hours passed like minutes. As the weeks turned into months, they became inseparable. Luca painted her in every season, laughing in summer light, thoughtful in autumn rain, dancing in snow. Amelia brought color to his world in a way no paint ever could. But life, like Venice's tide, has its unpredictable currents. Amelia received a letter one morning. Her mother had fallen ill back in Florence. She had to return indefinitely. They promised to write every day, to wait for each other. And for a while, the letters came, each filled with longing, with poetry, with hope. But then, one month, they stopped. No explanation. No goodbye. Only silence. Luca was heartbroken. He searched, he wrote, he waited, but no reply ever came. Years passed. He became known for his hauntingly beautiful portraits of a woman with dark eyes and a red umbrella. Tourists often asked about her, and he'd only smile wistfully, saying, "She was once the light in my world." Then, one winter morning, as snowflakes fell quietly over the canal, a woman stood beneath his window again. Red umbrella. Beige coat. And the same smile. It was Amelia. She had never stopped loving him. The silence had not been by choice. Her mother's illness had taken everything from her: time, energy, even her health. Then came the accident, and months in the hospital. By the time she could write again, Luca had moved, and her letters returned unopened. But she never stopped searching for him. And now, finally, she had found her way back. Luca descended the stairs faster than he ever had before. When their eyes met, there were no words, only an embrace, tight and trembling, as if letting go would break the world again. And this time, they didn't let go. They married in the spring, in a small garden by the canal. Luca painted again, not with longing, but with joy. And every day, as the sun set over Venice, two shadows could be seen by the window, whispering, laughing, loving. In a city that had once kept them apart, and now held them together.